Welcome everybody to the Genesis Project Podcast. Business principles for beginners from the School of Hard Knocks. They say that success leaves clues. In this podcast, we're going to discover the clues that it leaves behind, and we're going to start at the very beginning. We'll get into the weeds of how the guests of the show came up with their business ideas, the why behind their business ideas, how they dealt with setbacks and failures, what keeps them pushing forward, and the emotions behind it all. Everyone wants to start a business, but many are held back by something that keeps them from starting. We'll learn what it takes to get to the next level of business and beyond, and we're learning together through different principles of people who graduated from the School of Hard Knocks. So, grab you a pen, some paper, and a highlighter to take notes, because class is in session.
Hey, what's up, class? This is the Chancellor Bernard Gleaton. Now, I just want to take a quick minute just to stop by and let you guys know that you need to subscribe, rate, comment, and share so that everyone who wants to become an entrepreneur or who wants to level up as an entrepreneur can get this lesson. Also, make sure that you jump on my email list and my Facebook group for exclusive content. Come on and mix and mingle with my community with other entrepreneurs and create something great. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the classroom and see what our next lesson is with our new guest professor. I will see you guys in the classroom. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Genesis Project Podcast. I am your host, the Chancellor Bernard Gleaton, and this is the School of Hard Knocks. So I wanted to give you guys just a tad bit of a backstory real quick. The reason why I call this the School of Hard Knocks, as many of you, I want to say it again, that the reason why I call this the School of Hard Knocks is because I had a very unconventional path of getting to where I am today. And I like bringing people on who have sort of went through the same thing that I've went through, a very untraditional path of getting to where they are. So I always call it the School of Hard Knocks. And that is why I rightfully so call this the School of Hard Knocks. Now, speaking of the School of Hard Knocks, I was introduced to our guest professor today by my identical twin brother. Our guest professor today has spent some time with my twin brother in the Air Force, serving our great country and doing things that I tend to take credit for of him because I look like him and he had a pretty awesome job. I'm not going to lie. But my brother told me that I really needed to reach out to this brother. His story is amazing. Called him, talked to him, and my brother was right. He had a great story, and I really wanted to bring him onto the show so that he'll be able to tell you guys his amazing story. And I want you guys to keep something in mind here, that throughout all the trials, throughout all the tribulations, there is still light on the other side. And you guys always hear me say at the end of these things, chase everything with violent action. And I just have to say that this brother that I am bringing into the class to teach this lesson today has chased it with tremendous violence of action. So with that being said, I want to bring into the classroom our guest professor today, Guest Professor John Ellis. Say what's up to the class.
How's it going, guys? My name is John Ellis, and I'm in today to teach you guys a lesson. So I heard about this, just so you guys know, I heard about this podcast. It was a huge up-and-coming podcast, man, and I just knew for a fact it was going to be greatness eventually. Like I said, it's getting to the point where it's getting bigger and bigger. So I hope all you guys out there subscribe to it and everything else. For me personally, I love being involved with anything that's brand new or anything that's just for a fact it's got that energy around it to where it's going to be great. So I'm glad to be sitting in here to be on this podcast with you guys. So appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Like I mentioned in the intro, my brother did introduce us, and some of the things that you've told me, I said, man, I gotta get this. This stuff is gold. You can't make some of this stuff up. And you heard some of my brother's stories, and you heard a few of my stories. And a lot of things that has happened to us, we can't make this stuff up. I swear, we cannot make this stuff up.
I wish, man. I wish.
And that was one of my biggest reasons for having you come on here, man. So with that being said, I want you to go ahead and just tell the class a little bit about yourself, and then we go ahead and we get into it, brother.
Sounds good. Well, my name is John Ellis. I'm 28 years old. I have, let's see. So I was born and raised in Fairfield, Ohio. So close enough to Cincinnati, about 20 minutes outside of it. I was born with my mother and father. I stayed with, born and raised by them. I've got 8 brothers and sisters. So pretty big family, old school. You don't see that too much nowadays. Let's see, graduated from Fairfield High School, took off, left, and went to the Air Force. By the time I was, 19, maybe 20, I went served for about 6 years, got out after I did that. During that time, ended up doing tours in all types of places. Afghanistan was probably one of the most notable ones, and that was for about a year. From there, like I said, got out. I had the passion to be in business. I wanted this for the longest, for years beforehand. So now currently I own a business called Promise Real Estate Investment, where we specialize in a lot of different things. One of them specifically are short sales. So you guys out there who are dealing with foreclosure or anything like that, that is specifically what we do here. We stop foreclosures. We do everything we can to get you out of it. On top of that too, we rehab as well. So like I said as well, I am a actual contractor slash, I guess, a carpenter technically, but I do have background in electric too. So that's a little bit about myself. I do have children. I've got 3 kids, and yeah, that's about it. So, and a dog.
You can't forget about the dog.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, drives up a wall, but it's cool.
Yeah, man. I remember you telling me that you done some carpentry, and that's awesome because the wife and I we just got us a house or whatever. So
Okay.
I might need your expertise a little later, brother. So, but we're definitely gonna talk later.
Sounds good. Right on, man.
So I keep bringing it back to the intro. You did serve with my brother in the Air Force and everything like that. We definitely gonna dive into that a little deeper in just a few. But before we go any further, something that I always like to ask my guest professors is, what is your Genesis moment? And for those of you who are brand new to the School of Hard Knocks, let me explain to you what the Genesis moment is. So the Genesis moment is when you come to a fork in the road of your life, and you could go right, you could go left. Don't have to be good, don't have to be bad, but you can see what your life could be like beyond those first steps. So an example of the Genesis moment is me starting this show. That's the Genesis moment. Me getting married. That's another Genesis moment. Another Genesis moment is me trying out for the CFL 4 years removed from high school and never playing it down in college. So that is a Genesis moment. So with that being said, guest professor John, what is your Genesis moment?
My Genesis moment, as a matter of fact, it's very definite. It's a very defining moment for me, and it's so pure and innocent that even to this day, it's my go-to moment. Okay. So realistically, it's not something that I've done recently. It's not something that's happened over the years, but my defining moment in life, as a matter of fact, was when I was about 8. Well, actually, matter of fact, no, I'd say I was about maybe 12 or 13 years old. Okay. I was in 7th grade at the time, and growing up where I was at, it's just one of those deals. I've always had a spirit of a fighting spirit, if you will. So for me, fights weren't, and this might sound weird, but fights were never a like a thing of anger. Was just competition. That's it. I'm a competitive person. So weirdly enough, like I said, 7th grade year, you ran around, and weirdly enough, the area that I'm born and raised in is a very ethnically diverse place, but it's an area, it's Ohio, so you have a little bit of the prejudice and things like that happen. But long story short, 7th grade, there was a huge thing that happened. I'd been in a few fights, things like that. I wasn't the best kid ever. But long story short, the next year they had gone ahead and expelled me. They said, hey, look, you're done. You're not coming back. They actually expelled me 7th grade year. In 8th grade year, I completely missed school. Okay, so I had to do homeschool. But my defining moment was that year. And the reason I'll say that is because that's the first time I realized to my life, all the pictures that were painted, I used to always think to myself that once you went to school, everybody else in the world just had the world just moved. That things that people weren't at home, people were always working, all these other things. So the weird thing is like I said, that year, I discovered to myself there's a world outside of the traditional norm that people believe in. So like I said, I stayed home. I saw neighbors that were at home all day, that were out doing things. It was just an amazing world to see, the stuff that was not the traditional things that you're taught in school. So that was my defining moment, because that's when I realized that you can do something other than the norm and you can find a path. So,
Man, I think that's amazing. I will be quite honest and transparent with you. The whole idea of entrepreneurship to me has been with me since I was maybe 12, and I literally used to go get entrepreneur magazines, Forbes and things of that nature, just so I can learn this stuff, right? And I used to think like, okay, this is what I'm going to go to school for. It ain't. Honestly enough, I didn't stay in college long enough to actually do anything with it. But that feeling always stuck with me. That feeling of entrepreneurship and doing things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? It always stuck with me. And by it sticking with me, I realized, okay, well, maybe I don't have to go to school for entrepreneurship. And it seemed like that brief moment when I did go to school for business and things of that nature, when I started talking to some of my professors, a majority of them never even did the stuff. They just regurgitating things that they learned from college, or they might have been like a Fortune 500 companies and kind of have this mystical idea of how to start a business, how to run a business, and things of that nature. I'm not taking anything away from them, but it was like, man, well, how did you start? What did you do to start this business, or whatever? They couldn't really give me those solid answers. And I was like, what? I'm not saying that you guys are full of it, but you might be a little bit full of it. I mean, so I definitely agree with you on that standpoint. Besides, a lot of times these people just stay home.
Mhm.
You know, they go to their mailbox in their robes and stuff like that. I wanted that life.
Exactly. That's a life that I've been chasing after since, like I said, since that year, 8th grade year. The first time I saw it, and I was like, man, these guys are living life. They don't have to actually have to be anywhere. They don't have to do anything. They are honestly in control of life. And so, I mean, like I said, that's pretty much my defining Genesis moment, was that just seeing that you can do, if you have the imagination for it, you can do whatever you want. But as for starting a business, in my opinion, and I think that's what you're alluding to, I think one thing you have to have, and this is just my opinion, I think the thing you have to have is hunger. I think that you have to have an X factor that says, but instead of, I know a lot of folks, and I've seen this for so long, I've always been the person who says, screw the safety net, I want to go to the deep. Send me out there. I want to be the first one out there. I want to figure out what it's like. If I go, I go. If I fail, I fail. But I don't think there's any lessons, or I don't think there's any losses. I think it's just lessons. And that's something that was ingrained in my head as a young child just for years. I remember when I was younger, I used to, my idea of jobs, I knew all my friends were getting jobs. Everybody got jobs, right? And the weirdest thing is, too, is I knew for a fact my dad had a good friend of his named Dennis, and Dennis always needed stuff done around the house. And since I was a young kid, I loved anything to do with houses and just building and everything else. So for the longest, like I said, I worked under the table for him, and I think at the time, and believe you me, that I was well into maybe 17 years old, still working for this guy. It'd been probably 6-7 years at this point. I was still getting paid like $8 an hour. And this is under the table. So mind you, I spent 10 days there, or 10 hours there as a youth, and I'm getting paid $80, which is horse crap compared to my friends that are bringing in $200, $300, $400 after taxes on their paychecks. But at the end of the day, I just didn't want to fit into that norm, because I knew what happens. It's just like with me getting in trouble as a child. Once you're in that system, there's not really a way out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a latch on type deal. So for me, I said to myself, well, I'm going to stick to everything that's non-traditional. Everybody's looking at me, hey, why don't you just get a regular job? Look, man, I don't have anything against it, but there's certain things I'm picking up here. So in my opinion, I can actually learn more from him. I'd rather not take the pay. The pay is it's not about the pay. It's the lessons I learned. So, and I think those things definitely helped me throughout. And even today with business, it gives you a mindset of, but sometimes it's not going to work. Some things just won't work out for you. But at the end of the day, as long as you get up and you try, the thing is, if you lose, say for instance, you go out on the ledge and you put all your money into a business, and guess what? It fails. The cool thing is this, why it failed. So guess what? Next time you get the money, you decided, hey, look, man, we're not going left. We're going to take a right this time.
Yeah.
So,
Are you tired of drowning in a sea of receipts and invoices? Well, it's QuickBooks to the rescue. Their accounting software is like a life raft for small business owners. It helps you stay organized, track your finances, and helps you make smart business decisions. Plus, it's so easy to use, even a sloth can learn it. Not that we're calling you slow, but sloths are notoriously chill. So why wait? Give QuickBooks a try and start selling smoothly through the world of business. Check it out at our resource page at genesisprojectpodcast.com/resources.
Yeah. I think that's solid gold right there. That's solid gold right there. I know that you into real estate and investing and all that type of stuff. So I want to throw a couple of softballs at you. I want to know, what is rehab? For those in the class who don't know what rehab is or whatever else like that, and this is not like physical therapy or anything like that, I want you to explain to the classroom, what is rehab?
Okay, so rehabbing is going to be the process of basically taking a house that is basically outdated, that needs work, maybe it's dilapidated, falling apart, just something that no one really wants, or someone's just trying to get rid of quick. It's taking that and updating it and making it like new. So instead of going out and spending $300,000 on a house that's brand new and having the contractors and the builders go out and build it from the ground up and paying a ridiculous amount, you can go out and find a house that's 60 grand. You can possibly put 50,000 in it just by doing renovations to the classic things. Like, you're going to have your kitchen, you're going to have your bathrooms. Those are the money makers. Of course, like I said, you're going to have the curb appeal as well. So you want to make sure the outside looks good as well. If you can do that, and like I said, you can solidify that in a manner to where you got the end product that, you say, for instance, you spend $60,000 on a house, you put $50,000 in it, it'll sell for, let's say, $250,000. You've made a profit. You can live there for the next 5-10 years. You can go ahead and sell it, and for a fact, it'll make you money. So that's what rehabbing is. That's the gist of it. It doesn't always go that way, but the art to it in general is to try to find a property at a discounted amount. So
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, I want you to tell me, why did you get into the real estate game? I know it has something to do with you getting out of the Air Force and everything. If you want to go back even before that a little bit, I'm more than happy for you to do that.
Okay. So originally, for me getting into the real estate game, when I grew up, my dad went to school for architecture. Okay, he did that for about 3 years. He didn't finish his degree. He decided to switch to engineering. So as a kid, when I was born, I remember the first thing he bought me. The one thing that I do remember was a blue tin of Legos. And I kid you not, I logged so many hours on these Legos, man. By the time they were done, I'm sure they had like fingerprint rubs on them and everything.
Yeah.
So I had played with these Legos for what seemed like decades, but it probably was maybe 1 or 2, 3 years. But long story short, one day my dad, he had left from GE. We had a pretty big family hardship at the time. And I remember I was excited because he said something about building a house again, building another house. And I knew he'd done it before in the past. We had a house that he had built before that was immaculate. And I loved it still to this day. And long story short, I'd gone upstairs. I was so excited about it, man. I ran upstairs and I grabbed a piece of paper and I started drawing like a schematic of what I wanted for my room, not knowing any idea what the heck I was doing, but it just felt right. It's just something I did. So I did it. I remember taking it to my dad, and I remember him saying, "Oh, well, son, I don't know if we're actually going to do it or not, but if it happens, I'll keep this in mind." So I think he's actually still got the sketches somewhere today, which is ironic. But long story short, from there, predating me, well, like I said, I have 8 siblings, so I'm the youngest of the boys. I have 2 younger sisters, so you can imagine how big the family is. But long story short, predating them, my dad also, besides being an architect, he actually was in real estate for a long time. He actually had 14 rental properties. So essentially, that's also what gave me the bug. But then my older brother, who was technically my mentor that taught me short sales and foreclosures and all that stuff in real estate in general, he actually took me with him at the age of maybe 9 years old to one of his properties. He had just gotten to real estate, kind of following my dad's footsteps. I had gone to the property with him, and he had to clean out the house, help him clean out the house. So that really put a bug in my ear to say, hey, look, you can do this. This is not traditional. You don't have a boss. This is the first time I was ever seeing with my eyes someone who was not captivated by what I call public slavery. I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's what a job is. It's just over broke. They pay you enough just not to quit, and you do enough work just so you don't get fired. That's a fact of the matter. So it was the first time I ever saw anybody who was actually making money without having a boss. It was weird, not having a handler. So that really like jotted me up to say, holy crap, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. I'm a young kid. I didn't have my first job.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I think to myself, what, man, I had moved away to Texas. Mind you, this is probably about 18 years old. I moved away to Texas and got down there, joined the Air Force, and there was still this bug, this hunger saying, what, man, I went from a regular job, which was a 9 to 5, where you're counting the hours. That got old because I could never get enough hours for the check that I wanted. I wanted a $1,000 check. I wasn't getting it because I only worked 40 hours. Not happening. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm going to be smart on this. I'm going to go ahead and join the Air Force because that way I get a salary. Now, if I don't do anything, I still get paid, right? Genius.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately for me, I realized that you have a very hazardous life when you go military. So that, once again, too, I'm like, man, what the heck, dude? I thought this was going to be awesome. I'm making $40,000, $50,000 a year. I thought this would be awesome. So I said, man, I should probably try out this real estate thing. Hey, look, man, I'm at 25 years old. I've given everything I got into this stuff. I don't want to do either. Might as well put a fence. What's the worst that'll happen? I fall on my face. Well, I get back up. So long story short, I doubt. And that's essentially where I started pursuing real estate. And that's how we got here. So, yeah.
Man, I love the phrase that you made. What's the worst that can happen, right? Because every time my wife comes to me and says, hey, thinking about doing this, or I'm thinking about doing that, but I'm a little afraid. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? You know,
Yeah.
let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Let's swing for the fences. Let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? My wife, I wouldn't say that she hates that, but she's not necessarily fond of it.
Yeah.
Of me saying that, because she wants to be, she's more so of a planner, and me, I'm more so like, okay, that's the plan. All right, let's go do it. Let's get into it before I change my mind, before anything happens. Let's just go do it. I mean,
Fair enough.
You also spoke on just how you kind of got into real estate in the sense of somehow 2020 hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah.
And you playing with your little Legos, and you building stuff with your Legos, only years later to find out, man, you actually you're not playing with Legos anymore, but you actually putting that stuff to work. I'm saying,
Yeah.
so that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Definitely. It's definitely strange, man. I think one thing I will say, just a quick little snippet. I will say this. I think that everybody that has everybody's looking for that thing that's going to make them either rich or just happy. One of the two. It's either one of the two. And I don't think you can have both. You can't be rich and happy. I know people say you can, but there's a downfall, because you don't necessarily pray for all the things that come with being rich.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, guess what? When you make $1 million, guess what? Your family's going to start despising you because you're not giving them money. There's things that come along with it that you don't understand. So you have to have an even balance. But I think everybody, whatever it is in their life that they have, that there's something at one point in time you're passionate about, that you were better than anybody else at. All your friends, whether it was speaking, whether it was sports, whether it was commentating, you never know, because like I said, when you were a kid, there was something you did just amazingly, and your parents usually know what it was. They're like, dang, that kid won't stop doing this. But I think that's really the basis behind figuring it out. But I think it takes a while, because it took me years of just being in isolation in the military, just that to figure out where it is that my path actually was supposed to go. So
Right. And I could definitely piggyback off of that and kind of off into the sports world and everything like that. But I won't. I'll keep it out of it.
I get it.
Now, man, we only 20 minutes in, and you already dropping some good stuff, man. So I gotta applaud you for that. When it comes to real estate, right? I think a lot of us question, well, how do I find a deal? You know what I'm saying? Like we look around and we see that the state of the world and how bad things are, but there's people that's still finding these deals. So I want you to tell us, how are you finding these deals? How do you typically find your deals?
Okay. So originally what I did was, so to actually find deals themselves, the biggest thing that you can do, honestly, is look through certain lists, or my main one as of recently is actually bandit signs. Okay. So essentially what you're looking for when you're looking for deals, you're just looking for someone who's in a predicament, who needs to get rid of their property and they got no way out. So hypothetically, right, we know someone named Jimmy. Jimmy's got a house. Jimmy's parents just died. He inherits the house. Jimmy no longer owns the house, or they no longer own the house. They deeded it over to him when they passed, right? But Jimmy's already got a place, right? Jimmy's out of state. Jimmy doesn't want to deal with the house, the home here in Ohio, right? So what do? You reach out to Jimmy and say, hey, man, I just seen that your house is vacant. And usually there's things you can do. You can drive by a house, go through a neighborhood, and basically what you do is you look for the worst house in that neighborhood. It should be dilapidated, probably grass is tall. You'll probably have a bunch of mail stuff shoved in the mailbox. Maybe a little discolor. It just looks rough. It looks rougher than every other house, right? It looks like a home that's not loved. That's essentially what you're looking for. And from there, there's a plethora of things you can do. For me, usually I go about skip tracing. Skip tracing is basically finding out who owns that property, and then being able to either A, go find them in person, or B, going ahead and sending them a letter to them. Now, keep in mind, whenever you're looking for these properties, to be honest with you, all the on the property of who owns it at that specific time is legally put online. So you find out who it is that owns the property. You reach out to them, say, hey, what, man, I actually want to buy this house. It looks nice. I love the area. do you mind if I offer you money for it? Not do you mind, but hey, I'll offer you this much money for it. Or what are you willing to part with it for? Right? And they'll usually have some type of offer. They'll have something that they rebuttal with. They've got a dollar amount in their mind, but usually it's going to be pretty high. Usually what I tell them is, okay, fine. Once they tell you exactly what they are asking for it, and from there you go in the house and you say, hey, look, I need to look around and check it out. From there, you're going to go through a checklist and you're going to say, hey, look, these things need updated. I can't buy a house from you for $130,000 when I got to put 60 grand into it. So that's not going to work, buddy. And the thing is, choose you reassuring you, let them know, hey, at the end of the day, I've been doing this for a long time. I can tell you right now, your house isn't going to sell for this, no matter what you do. So usually about that time, they'll go ahead and they'll reconfigure it and they'll come with a more modest offer, which will probably still be a little too high. But you just reassure them, hey, look, man, tell you what, I'll go ahead and close with you right now for, let's say, $60,000 cash. Hard money, we'll close. We'll go to the closing table tomorrow. We'll get this over with, and you're gone. And 90% of the time, most people come to their senses and say, yeah, well, it was a thorn in my side to begin with. Mom and dad are gone. I can't keep their house anymore. I don't want any of the memories in it. I just want to be done with it. So that's usually how you find it. There's other ways as well. You can go into, say, for instance, there's courthouses. Depending on the state you live in, and I'm not sure about Detroit, but I know from my state, there's courthouses out here with listings that list all of the houses out there that are foreclosed on, that are falling apart, that are, yeah, there's a plethora of things that put them into this criteria. And from there, same deal. You can find the owners and essentially from there, just offer them amount. But you got to be educated. The biggest thing I advocate for is getting educated about the situation before you do it. Because like I said, I've seen a lot of guys too, not that I've taught, but guys that I've worked with in the past that don't really know too much. And what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll say, hey, but this is a great deal. The guy's asking me $90,000 for the house, but the problem is you didn't realize that the whole neighborhood goes for 120, and you need 40,000, and so you're already in the hole by the time you sign that contract and bought it. So, yeah.
Now, speaking of being in a hole, I know you spoke on a little earlier today about short sale. What exactly is short sale? Because I hear it nowadays. I hear it a lot, right? But I want to know, what is a short sale?
Okay, so a short sale is essentially where foreclosed on your property. In other words, you have not made your payments up until a certain point. So what the bank has done, and this is one thing I tell a lot of people as well, and all my clients, I tell them, look, the bank is not in the business of real estate. The bank is in the business of banking. So at the end of the day, your house that you believe that you love so much, you think to yourself that they will do everything they can to help you. They're not going to. They want their money, period. They want the interest, right? So essentially, with a short sale, essentially you foreclosed on your property. The bank is now coming at you saying, hey, we want the house. We're going to give you X amount of time to make things right by paying off the full balance. Because once it goes past a certain point, you can't stop at the bank and give me $650 for the mortgage now. You have to give me the whole 13 grand you're behind. That's what you have to do, right? So most folks, like I said, American statistics, most folks don't even have $1,000 in their bank account, especially right now. So it's not happening. So what's the wise thing to do? The wise thing to do would be either A, you can borrow from your 401k, right? If you have that and you can do that, pull from that, right? If you can't, you can apply for certain things. Loan modification, that's the biggest way to try to stop a foreclosure from happening. And this is what I tell all my clients. A loan modification will save you. Now, keep in mind, a loan modification is something that will basically help you. It's like a Band-Aid, okay? If you're not good with bills, if you're not paying on time, then a loan modification is not going to help you. But essentially what happens with a short sale is the next option, okay? A short sale is basically where we go to the bank and we say, hey, my name's John Ellis. I own this company, and I'm an accredited investor. I can afford to buy this guy's house, okay? So essentially what that will do is it will tell the bank, hey, guess what? This guy's legitimate. He will buy your house, and that will stop the foreclosure. That's essentially what a short sale is. A short sale is stopping the process of foreclosure by foregoing it to somebody else that can prove that they have the funds. And two, you also have a few other things as well. You must have a list. It must be listed with a real estate agent as well. So that's another thing. But these are the big ticket items. And essentially what this does for the homeowner is it stops the foreclosure in the sense of you do not have this on your record. So next week, if you want to go buy a car or something, it's not going to necessarily say, hey, this guy foreclosed, because as soon as they see that you lost your house by not paying that mortgage, no one's going to lend to you. And that's a 7-year fix, right? 7 to 10 years typically. But like I said, that's what a short sale is stopping a foreclosure from happening via selling it to an individual or an entity that is able to take over the payments and get you out of harm's way. So.
So I've came to know this one particular method, and I forget the name of the method. Forgive me, but it was essentially just transferring the deed over to a party, right? So I go look at a house, right? I don't have any money, but I know that you're in trouble, right? Let's say you're behind on your mortgage, whatever else like that, and I come in and say, hey, listen, what if I was to take over on your mortgage, right? I give you maybe $2,000 for you to move out, and you just sign the house over to me, and I'll start paying on the mortgage for you with it, and you just sign over the deed to me. They do that, and I will hold it for a minute and then put it back out on the market to sell it. I forget exactly what that's called. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, correct. I believe that's called a deed in lieu. So in other words, what that is just like you said, you perfectly explained it. That's essentially the same thing as a short sale, but not necessarily. A short sale, unfortunately, you cannot do that in a short sale situation. So all those guys out there right now that are going through this whole foreclosure situation, because let's be honest, let's face it, right now the economy is not the greatest, especially when it comes to homeowning, right? A lot of folks are falling behind, and a lot of you guys might not make it out alive, but like I said, we're hoping for the best. But nonetheless, what I will say is that essentially a short sale, the difference is this, is that you've already defaulted on so much of your mortgage. So the difference is with a deed in lieu, I can transfer my house to you because I just can't keep up with the payments. So if I came to you and said, hey, look, man, I'm up to date, but I just can't keep this house anymore, I'm legally allowed to do a deed in lieu, where I transfer it to you, right? A short sale, you can, or a foreclosure, you can't, because you're already behind 13 grand and the bank wants that 13,000. So in order for you to actually sell that house to someone else, you must have them clear that 13,000. Now there drives dilemma right there. There's a huge dilemma, because at the end of the day, you're a smart man. You're not going to pay $13,000 more if this house is dilapidated and messed up, which 90% of the time they are. You're not going to pay 13 grand that he's behind when the house ain't worth that much. You know what I'm saying? So that there lies the problem with a deed in lieu for a short sale or for a foreclosure per se. So
okay, that's interesting. I brought that concept to the wife with every intention on actually doing that, and then she found this house, and I said, okay, whatever, let's go ahead and do that, because I felt like I wasn't confident enough in the education that I had of it to actually go and attempt that. But well, I wish my brother would introduce this sooner. I probably would have did that. So I want you to tell us, like, if people wanted to people heard you today, and all of a sudden they're like, what, that's something I want to do. I want to go off into real estate and everything like that. What would you tell them as far as how to get into real estate and things of that nature? What would you tell them?
I would say, in my opinion, I would say to essentially just be around folks. Well, first off, find a mentor. I'll be honest with you. The easiest way into anything is to find someone who's doing actively what you want to do, because they can tell you and show you the pitfalls. Luckily for me, I had a few in the family that, unbeknownst to me, were already my mentors. I didn't know it at the time, but they end up being great mentors. But that's what I would do first. Second off, change up your friends. If your friends aren't good for you, if your friends aren't on the same path, there's no point. Look, the thing for me is, I say this all the time, I don't have a lot of 9-to-5 friends, I'll be honest. It's nothing against them, but either way, in some form or facet, they have to be doing something self-employed related. Because at the end of the day, I can't talk to you about a 9-to-5 when I don't got one. It doesn't make sense. It takes away from my vision and my goal, right? So that's the second thing I would tell you to do. Third, spend as much time as you can, as much energy as you can, getting to that goal. So if it means late nights, if it means taking extra classes, if it means going to school for something that's related to your topic, do it. Because the thing is suffer now to be great later. That's the biggest thing I can tell folks, right? Nobody wants to have to wake up early or work 2 jobs or 3 jobs or do extra stuff. No one wants to. But at the end of the day, when you're at the top of that mountain and everybody's looking at you and say, hey, well, how did he get up there? Well, guess what? Yeah, no one sees the backstory, but your backstory. So I think that's one thing that's in common for anybody out there who reaches success you have to be willing to do the stuff while others are sleeping. If sleep is that great of a thing to you, you don't deserve to be doing it anyway. Let's be honest with you. Somebody out there that's doing 10 times more than you are. So
Are you tired of dealing with messy spreadsheets and disorganized customer data? Well, say goodbye to the chaos and hello to ConvertKit CRM. Their platform is like a trusty sidekick for your business, helping you manage your customer relationships with ease. Plus, it's so user-friendly, even a clown can use it. No offense to the clowns out there. So, why wait? Try ConvertKit CRM today and watch your customer management skills go from the circus to top notch. Check it out at our resource page at genesisprojectpodcast.com/resources.
Man, I I feel like you keep trying to pull the sports thing out of me.
No. Hey, man, if it's got to come out, it's got to come out. Everybody loves a success story, man. Everybody loves them. So,
you said something about something that you said reminded me of what a football coach used to tell me all the time. Champions is going to do what nobody else wants to do, right?
Man,
And I'll tell this quick story real quick. In high school, I ran track and played football, right? Never really ran track before, but I knew I was fast because of my speed in football. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So first year running track, I did okay, went to the regionals, didn't do too well. The next year, did it again, went further in regionals, but didn't make it to the states, right? Or rather, I did make it to the state, but didn't make it out of the first race. So my senior year in high school, I had in my mind, said, okay, listen, I'm tired of getting to the promised land and not going beyond that. So something needs to change. So I actually stole, I stole a few hurdles because that was my event, the 110 hurdles. I stole a few hurdles, took it home with me. And when it was time for track practice, go to track practice, I run till I puke. After I puke, I get back out there, run again, come home, take a shower real quick, and then line up the hurdles in the driveway and go over the hurdles again, you know what I'm saying? And then I go in, do some homework, eat, go to bed, wake up early again, get outside, go over the hurdles again, and then go to school and just do that whole cycle again, right? Yeah. And a lot of people, some people knew about that, right? But when I started telling people more and more about it, it was like, yeah, but why? Why? And I said, because like I have this goal. This is the purpose of me getting to this goal. Nobody else I know is doing what I'm doing. Nobody else stole these hurdles. I stole these hurdles. Whether anybody want to admit to it or not, I stole these hurdles for me to practice in order for me to get better. And the more and more I did it, the better and better I got. So senior year, it's crazy because I had prom the night before. So that's another story. So,
yeah.
So at the states, make it to the state, I do really well, blow past regionals, first place. I come into the state track meet now. I get out of the first round. Now even more excited because I haven't gone this far before, right? So now I'm in the semis. I'm blowing past the competition, super easy. Whereas previously before, it wasn't that easy for me, right? And I get all the way up to the finals, right? And I'm a creature of habit, right? There's certain things that I need in place for me to stay focused, right? And one of the hurdles was a tad bit also. I stopped the race, or before the race began, I stopped and said, hey, we need to fix my hurdle. He was like, no, it's cool. I said, no, I'm not running until you guys fix my hurdle. I need it to be fixed. So they went over there, fixed it and everything, and I was able to run. And I started running over the hurdles, and I seen a guy coming out the corner of my eye. He was catching up to me. I said, no, you're not taking this from me. You was not taking this from me.
Yeah.
So I started running harder, right? And as soon as he started creeping up, I started pulling more away from him, right? Across that finish line, and I ended up having the state record for my division and everything like that. But after they said that, I almost broke down on stage and started crying in front of a full of people because nobody knew how much work I had put in just to get to this point, you know. And when I tell people that story, there's people, obviously there's people who don't quite understand that, but those that do get it, they feel my pain. They feel why I did it. They understand why I did it. And to those, and you also mentioned this as far as your friends, there was some friends who was privy to knowing what I did, who was privy to knowing that I stole these hurdles, how much I was putting in work. They see me puking that practice and then wiping it off and then going back out there running even harder after that. I'm saying, and those friends who was just like, yo, man, you doing too much. I said, all right, well, listen, we're on two different paths. You know, say I'm trying to get here. I don't know what you're trying to do, and I can't let you mess me up from me getting to this pinnacle that I had placed in my mind. So again, I appreciate you for for bringing out the sports story.
Hey, man, no, I mean 100%. It's crazy though too. It speaks about anybody's character who will legally put themselves at legal risk, at any type of risk, to be better at something. And I think that's something that I think all champions and all winners have, because if you don't have that mindset, at the end of the day, what are you doing? You can't be cautious to say, hey, I'm getting here at any means necessary. That's just what it is. And clearly, like I said, from the conversations we've had alone, the stories that you've told me on the back end, you know, what you've been through in general, and the persistence, that's the biggest thing. Persistency is key to anything. I mean, the guy at the end of the day, he can be slow as crap, but guess what? Over time, he will beat the guy who's sprinting every day, because the sprinting guy will be winded. This guy, his longevity will just, if he just keeps going, he'll make it. So, you know.
Yeah. Now there's so many things that we could really peel off and go into just from that concept alone. But I know we're kind of running short on time, so I won't get too deep into it. But I will say this: I have a cousin-in-law who introduced me to a book called, I forgot the name of the book. Anywho, it was pretty much talking about that concept, right? The law of 1%, right? Continuously doing things 1% better. If I'm 1% better today than I was yesterday, then over the course of 365 days, then my improvement would just be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. And just having that mindset, okay, if I just improve just 1%. Now, obviously, you won't see that improvement just in a few hours or a few days or even a few weeks, but in years, that compound interest of me putting in that extra 1%, getting that 1%, the compound interest on that is enormous, right? And I think people fail to realize that has everything to do with your mental strength, your mental ability, and your mind would tell you what you wanted to do. You have to be the master of yourself. You have to master yourself in order for you to reach this certain level of what you want to be at, right? And people can't do it, man. People can't do it. As much as I want to see people do it, there's a lot of people that's not going to do it. We all talk about Jordan and how he had that flu game, right? And how he dropped 60 when he had the flu, or when Kobe had tore his Achilles and he still played. I don't know if you felt that, but that's
definitely. That's
like, how can you play through that, right? And I think we all have this unique ability to do exactly what they did, but we're not willing to do what they did in order for us to hit those levels that they did, those levels of greatness that they reached.
I think that I'll definitely agree with you on that, man. And I think the biggest thing is, for sure, finding out what it is that you're supposed to do in this world. I mean, that's the biggest thing, because I think everybody's a savant at one thing or another. With Kobe and Jordan, those guys, we admire those guys, sports players, everything, right? But we fail to a lot of times as a society, we fail to recognize the Stephen A. Smiths, even matter of fact, one huge turnaround right now is Mike Tyson. Not only with the boxing, but you see him now on podcasting. It's absolutely insane. You know, I mean, Joe Rogan, for goodness sakes. These things are things that aren't taught. They're just things that these guys do exceptionally well. And I think everybody's got that moment to be a star. And for Kobe and Jordan, like I said, I think we're just witnessing people who wanted to push something to the absolute limit of their power. Recently, I've been getting really big into watching just greatness in general perform. I remember watching or listening not too long ago to a podcast by Mike Tyson, and he talked about how to become the greatest that he was, he used to study and read books about the great conquerors of the world, Lennox Lewis, all these guys, these great conquerors, and you see what he ended up becoming. He became, still to this day, the reigning and probably the greatest boxer that's ever lived on this planet. I mean, and he dominated every fight. You think about Conor McGregor, you think about a lot of these guys, they, at the time, their craft and what they studied became what they are. So for me, in my opinion, like I said, I've studied great CEOs, great business owners, everything you can think of. And I will continue to until the day that I reach those heights. But it's just one of those things that you see it come over time. And like you said, you're not going to see everything in one day. And I think that's the big challenge to everybody. You want to see yourself grow 3 inches in a week. And I remember being like that as a kid. I remember sitting there looking at the yardstick every single day, man. I wouldn't go anywhere. But 5 years later, I look at it, I'm like, dang, dude, I grew pretty big.
Yeah.
When you take your mind off of it and you just do what you're supposed to do, I think that's when it comes to fruition. So
Yeah. I think that's a great segue into my next question, which is, what is the one thing you wish you knew before becoming an entrepreneur?
I think the one thing I wish I knew, man, looking back, I wish I would have known how long it takes to actually I wish I knew how long it takes to actually reach not even success. I wouldn't even say success, period. I want to say the freaking tip of the dang iceberg, man. That, because that is probably the toughest, because besides from learning and everything else and all the things that you have, and you start seeing a bigger picture and you realize that these guys who are these shows and all these fictionary things that you dreamt about for so long aren't real, for one, but two, the individuals who are doing them, it's taken them 30 freaking years to get there, and they're just as dedicated and they work just as hard as you do, if not more. So I wish I knew that originally, that everything that the time is, it's all about timing. And I wish I knew that it's whatever you think's going to happen, it's not going to happen. Because like right now, for instance, I've been big on short sales. I've been doing short sales. That's my bulk of my business, right? Stopping foreclosures left and right. And then, of course, out of nowhere, COVID hits. And what happened? They stopped the whole foreclosure market. For me, I'm sitting there, twiddling my, trying to do other deals, things like that, which isn't bad. But nonetheless, too, it's one of those deals where it's more so to me, I look at it as the universe saying, hey, wait, hold on for a minute. When this thing comes, you'll be more than prepared. So,
man, something that you said reminds me of, there's this artist by the name of BJ, the Chicago Kid. He is a R&B artist, somewhat hip hop or whatever. He had this song where he had Will Smith talking on, not necessarily a skit or whatever. It was just a previous interview that Will Smith did. And he said, once I make it up in my mind, it's done. Like, that's it. Like, if you and I get on a treadmill, if I'm getting on a treadmill, I see you on that treadmill, in my mind, I'm thinking, I am going to be on this treadmill longer than you. I will die on this treadmill before I get off, you know what I'm saying? And I think that was one of the most, that's actually one of my most played songs, just for that one piece that he talked about. He kept talking about brick by brick and everything like that. But moving along, I know you mentioned earlier that you have 3 kids and a dog.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Can't forget about the dog.
I know. I can't forget about him.
I want you to tell us, how do you run a business and still find balance with your home life?
So weirdly enough, my home life is weirdly enough a bit of an anomaly, to be honest with you. And this is also something else that I think, like, to segue, not even a segue, but just to do a quick snippet, mental tenacity, just a huge thing. For me, for instance, I'll give you a quick little backstory, just small. So like I said, I was married at one point in time when I was in the military, and the saying goes, if you were in the military and you're not divorced, you were never in the military. That's a little fun joke around the military, right? So like I said, I wear that badge proudly. I am divorced from my ex. And like I said, I have 2 children with her. So 2 of them are actually in Texas, weirdly enough, right? I've got one up here from a previous relationship when I was younger. But like I said, nonetheless, I do have 3, I have 3 beautiful children. And they mean the world to me. But the way I keep things going, for one, because it's not easy for me to run a business, for one, and actually have to be stationary here, because obviously I want to be with my kids and my 2 in Texas, and I want to be up here at the same time. But I have to make that rational decision of, hey, this is where I need to be at to secure their future. So it becomes a little tough, but the way I do it for the most part is I always say to myself, I try to visit as often as I can, for one, to get down there. And two, I always remind myself at the end of the day, temporary pain. That's all it is. It's temporary, right? You're missing. I understand that a lot of folks don't really, and a lot of folks might not see it this way, but the way I see it is this, is I rationalize it as you might be missing X amount of time with them. But the thing is, too, is in this day and age with all the things that I've learned and I know about this world, finish up my time here and figure everything out I can and everything I can do possible to make their life better in the sense of not necessarily material things, but set them up with something, a business or something that I know for a fact can fuel and put money into their dreams. If I can do that as a father, that's what matters to me, right? That way my kids, they'll be able to say, hey, Dad, thank you for spending your life building this thing up. So that way me and my brothers and sisters can go off to school, or we can go off and chase our dreams, and there's something that will fuel it. So that's how I really rationalize it. I know it's probably not the most conventional thing, but I do think when you switch over to a side of entrepreneurial or becoming an entrepreneur, you cannot be a rational being, because no one's going to say I'm going to go 8 months or 6 months without a paycheck. No one's going to say that. Right, to continue with your dreams. But like I said, once again, we can go back to the by all means necessary, I will die for this type stuff. So that's pretty much how I rationalize it for the most part, is I'm building something bigger for the kids. So
you trying to build a legacy where they could come, and you're building the foundation of the legacy so that they could build on top of that foundation that you are laying down. I love that. That is gold. Okay, well, with that being said, what is the biggest mistake that you've made as an entrepreneur?
Not put money back in the business. That was one. That's not, man. You see that?
We're gonna have to go deeper into that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you know how it is. You see that check, man. You get that check, your first 10 grand, your first 15, 20, whatever it is, and you don't see nothing but everything you wanted and everything you sacrificed to get to this moment. But the thing you don't realize is at the end of the day, guess what? That next deal is not closing for another 3 months. So now you're out here living. And like I said, too, that's the big swap for being an entrepreneur 90% of the time, is you don't have a 9 to 5. You don't got a steady paycheck. You got one with cash. And if you can manage that for 3 months, you're good. And a lot of people say, hey, you're crazy. You can't manage 15,000. But the thing is, too, is if you're an individual with kids and things like that, or wife, whatever it is, there's little things they want. Hey, hon, I busted my butt, I'll do it. Next thing you look at your pot of cash, you're like, man. And then you realize, hey, I got to do this, this, and this. So at that point in time, it's all gone. So I would definitely say to myself, and I would say it was my first 2 deals that I closed. Both of them probably netted me over dang near 20 grand. And that was in the span of 3 months probably. And I can tell you right now, I did not put a lick of that back into my business at all.
Are you tired of spending hours trying to create a sales funnel that actually converts the sales? Well, say goodbye to the headaches and hello to Drop Funnels. Their platform makes it easy to create professional, high-converted sales funnels with just a few clicks. And the best part, it's so intuitive, even a 3-year-old could use it. Not that we recommend you getting a 3-year-old to run your business. So why wait? Give Drop Funnels a try and watch your sales soar to new heights. Check it out at our resources page at genesisprojectpodcast.com/resources.
But yeah, so
Oh,
that was my start.
Class, I hope you caught on to that. That is one of the biggest gold nuggets that out of the whole season, right? And we've had some great nuggets come out, but that is probably the most important nugget right there. I mean, so I'll tell you this quick thing. So my wife and I, there's something called the FU amount, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So the FU amount is the amount that you need to say FU to your job, right? For example, right? When I started this podcast and started selling, my online courses on how to start a business, as well as my ebook, Powerful Entrepreneur, I came up with this FU amount, right? And I told my wife, my goal is to make 10 grand a month, right? But right now, how much do we need to cover the bills? And she said, oh, well, We did about, right? I said, okay, so if I can make X amount of money on a consistent basis, then that's my first step, right? That's the first step. If I can hit that, then I know I can get to 10 grand, right? And then of course, as we go on or whatever else like that, as I'm making my way up to 10 grand and maybe even more, right? That is going to be my FU. So I need to make sure whatever I'm doing is able to cover the amount of bills for the month. And then everything else is you, right?
Yeah.
So I can turn around and tell, my 9 to 5 or whatever, I'm saying, F you, I don't need you no more. I got this over here that's building, that's growing, and whatever else like that. So class, you might want to take note of that, of the F you amount,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's an absolutely huge, a massive part of, I think, just growing in general, setting those goals, keeping track of goals as well. And as well, just thinking about everything that happens in general with owning a business and running something, you have to stay on top of things. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of days that I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And like I said, lately, especially with the COVID stuff and all the stuff that's been going on there, it makes it harder to go on actual trips to go meet with clients and things like that, because everybody's paranoid about COVID, and that's fine. But like I said, you still have to persevere and try to figure out a creative way to get those deals done and get them to the finish line. So one thing that we've actively been implementing ourselves is, like I said, obviously wearing masks and stuff like that. But on top of that too, just double checking, triple checking before we actually go out to the property and make sure that the homeowner is okay with us being there. And also as well, making sure that we've got disinfectant and everything else that we can possibly have to go out there. But yeah.
This has nothing to do with what the questions I came up with, but just out of curiosity, I want to know, how are you pivoting amongst this COVID season, this COVID pandemic?
So for the most part, realistically, I've shifted more so towards just education, right? So this is the type of person I have. I'm a person that wants to know all aspects of everything, right? So at this current moment, I'm actually in school right now for construction technology. So like I said, as a carpenter as well, but like I said, I'm picking up an electric too. Now, a lot of people say, well, hey, for the viewers out there and the students in the classroom that understand the concept of rehab and they understand real estate in general, you as the business owner and as the guy who's performing the rehabs, I don't necessarily need to know electrical and carpentry. But the thing for me is this, is if I hire a contractor and he comes out, right, and this guy wants to say, hey, this thing's going to cost me to do a demolition to a kitchen is going to cost me $5 grand. First off, buddy, you're out of your mind, because I know for a fact, I know how much time it takes. I know the process of doing it. But this is why in the military, on top of it as well, you are supposed to be proficient at everything you do. I don't care if I pay you for it. I need to know what you're doing. So that way, and a side quick story, the reason why I actually did this during this COVID time is because the last house that I had that I got an estimate on, and this is Ohio prices, mind you, I had maybe 4 things I needed to get done. I had the kitchen that needed to be done, right? I needed the floors done, and I need 2 bathrooms done, and then I need the house painted, right?
Mm-hmm.
The individuals in question that I had come out were actually folks that I worked with in the past on another project. This guy, I guess COVID had hit, business was down. This guy actually quoted me at $30,000 for labor, right? Mind you, the house isn't even worth, the house in fixed up condition at the end is worth $190. I'm buying it for about $100. Actually, matter of fact, it was about $90,000 I bought it for. So you can imagine the budget when someone says $30,000 just for people to show up and do the work. You're looking at them like, yo, the rehab itself isn't going to cost $30,000. You know what I'm saying? The kitchen cabinets are going to cost me maybe $2,300, right? And that's for everything, right? New appliances will be an additional $500-600. So we're altogether $3,000 there. Bathroom appliances and stuff, that's $100 per item. So let's just roughly guesstimate for the bathrooms, maybe $2,000 each. So as of now, I'm sitting at an all-in budget in this house before paying at like maybe $9,000, right? This guy wants to charge me $30,000 for labor. So that's when a bell rang. When I said, okay, my business is tapering off a little bit, what can I do in this downtime to make me more aggressive and more professional when we get back into this thing? And that's when I decided, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take up school, and I'm gonna go ahead and learn all these trades that I'm hiring these folks for. Because the last thing you can do is come to me and tell me, hey, guess what, John? Yeah, we're gonna charge you X amount of dollars. No, you're not, because I can do it myself. So if you really want the paycheck, buddy, I suggest you figure out what's a fair price. And if it's not convenient to me, I'll just do it myself. So, but that's pretty much it. My shift has been to education in general. So
I think that's a great pivot. That's a great pivot. Well, with that being said, let me ask you this. What is something personal that you want the class to know about you that cannot be found on Google or Wikipedia?
Ooh. Oh, matter of fact, so I appreciate you asking that. So something that can be something. Matter of fact, ironically, my mentor is a guy. Well, he's my brother, right? His name is Kareem Ellis, right?
Yeah.
And Kareem Ellis is actually, he is everything that I aspire to be eventually someday and more. But as a matter of fact, he is currently Les Brown's star pupil, as a matter of fact, and he actually runs Les Brown's, I think it's a Monday night motivational speak phone call that he does every Monday night. But basically, throughout the past years, there's been different very successful and very huge motivational stars that have run this show. So my brother, as a matter of fact, just picked it up. And like I said, he's been doing this for maybe the last month. But that's a fun fact that most folks don't know, because I'm not really one to post too much about my personal life, family, all that stuff. So 9 times out of 10, most people probably couldn't connect the dots. But that's a fun fact. So
yeah, we're going to talk about that more.
Oh,
later.
yeah, I know. We spoke about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what is the one key takeaway that you want the class to walk out of this lesson with?
I would say, for me personally, I would say just not having fear to do something. I remember being a kid. I think everybody as a kid, you were never really scared of anything. There's some kids out there that were, but for most folks, you felt like you could dream, you could reach the stars. You want to be Superman, you want to be whoever. You could do whatever you wanted in that split second. You can go into another realm and become that person.
Yeah.
For you guys out there who are terrified to take the leap into real estate, starting a business, whatever it is, the biggest thing I can say to take away from this whole podcast is to just do it. Just like Nike says, just do it. At the end of the day, you don't ever lose, you learn. You get a lesson, you get something out of it. And maybe you find out that it's not as hard as you think. But that's the one thing I want people to understand. And one thing my dad always said to me when I was a kid is never stop dreaming, son. That's what he said. And still to this day, in Ohio, when all my friends were going Marines and Army and everything else, and it was to be honest with you, it was one of those deals where people basically just didn't think to themselves that you had the brain capacity to do it, because everybody else was going to these other branches. But then, of course, like I said, forget that. Someone told me you're not going to go. And like I said, we changed that up real quick and we made sure we made it. So, and then from there, same deal, getting into business. But that's the biggest thing, is not having the fear, letting go of all the stuff that you fear to lose in that sense. Whatever's holding you back, just see where you land. You might end up somewhere else, man. So
love it. I love it. Okay, well, this is another great lesson. I appreciate you for coming out into the School of Hard Knocks to talk on this lesson. I don't know what I'm going to name it just yet, but you'll find out later.
There you go. Right on.
You'll find out later. So with all that being said, man, I want you to go ahead and just give people, just let the class know where they can find you at. If they wanted to get in contact with you, being that you in Cincy, who knows? Maybe they could catch you at a Cleveland Browns game or a Cincinnati game. Who knows?
Possible. Yeah. Like I said, you can follow me on Instagram. Like I said, it's Promise Real Estate Investments. I believe there's underscores there under each one. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but that's where I do the bulk of my showing the world what I do. So a lot of my projects that I'm doing, a lot of the clients I'm dealing with, a lot of the things I'm learning in school and everything else, that's where I usually keep people updated. I also have a YouTube channel that's under the same exact hashtag, or not hashtag, but under the exact same name. I do not do Facebook. I think there's just too much ideology on Facebook for myself, so I stay away from it. But other than that, those are two main places to find me. If you're in the local Cincinnati area, like I said, give us a call sometimes. Like I said, we give all advice. Everything that we do is free. We do not charge a dime for it. So at the end of the day, give us a call, reach out to us if you have any, and that's even if you're out of state. If you have questions about foreclosure, I know the market's coming very soon. It's going to hit very hard. And hopefully, like I said, we all survive this. But if you have any questions of how to get out of it, how to stop it, how to save your home, or how to get rid of it, give us a call. My phone is going to be 513-899-6199. That is a 24-hour phone line. So like I said, you can reach out to us at any time. And once again, my name is John Ellis, and I own Promise Real Estate Investment. This is the little logo on it. Yeah, so, and like I said, we're here to help. That's pretty much it. So.
Oh man, I appreciate you so much, brother. And I feel like we're gonna have to talk so that I can try to get you to start a coaching business, or something. I mean,
Yeah. Hey, man, like I said, the sky's the limit for us, man. That's one thing I talk to your brother about all the time. Sky's the limit. So,
Yeah,
like I said, and also as well, like I said, with my brother as well, we're going to have to link that up as well, because that one's going to be an interesting one. Very interesting. So
I can't wait to see how that's going to turn out, man.
Yeah.
So, again, I thank you, brother, for coming out to the class to teach us on this lesson. It's a you class. You heard all of this great information, great information. You cannot miss this information. I hope you guys took a lot of great notes, because I know I have. Good thing is this is recorded, so I can always go back and listen to it. And I got this brothers that you guys don't have. So I can always call,
but not the
I can always call them and bug them and all that type of good stuff. So class, make sure you check out everything that he got going on. Check him out on Instagram, check him out on YouTube. Call him if you got questions. This brother is free with his knowledge. He would love to give it out to you. And what I always say at this time, make sure you subscribe and check us out. Make sure you hit that button for notifications and all that type of stuff, so when new lessons, new classes is coming out, and not to mention new seasons. But with all of that being said, what I like to say at these times is, everything that you do in life and everything that you chase after, make sure you chase after it with violent action. Class has concluded, and we will see you in the next one.
About 15 years ago, I hated where I was at, and I knew that I wanted to start a business. And I asked my friends and family, how do I start a business? 90% of them never started a business before. And the 10% that didn't remember what they did. So I went on and earned my bruises from the School of Hard Knocks. My inspiration for the School of Hard Knocks and the courses that I've created was to reach people that felt the same way that I felt way back when. Like I was destined for more. The purpose of the Genesis Project podcast was to move those same people towards that great, with the guest professor that comes to the show and learn from their mistakes. This is a call to action to those who are searching for greatness. Join the School of Hard Knocks by commenting, sharing, subscribing, and get this message out to those searching for greatness. Click on the links in the description to get more information. And everything you do, everything that you chase after it with violent action. I'll see you in the hallway.